All right. Good afternoon, Thosh, to everyone. On Chugik, Thosh Collins, on Akamir Autumn Javadamjad. My name is Thosh. I'm from the Salt River people, and I'm one of the co founders of Well for Culture. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this short 25-minute session about Well for Culture. We want to share a little bit more with you about the initiative, what it's about, and our wellness model. And Well for Culture was started by myself, Thosh Collins, and my partner Chelsea Luger, who is the co-founders of it. We started it in 2014 and we launched it in 2015, and ever since then, we've been doing wellness work around Native country and sharing our wellness model and learning from other communities as well. So first off, I'd like to thank the Unity Council for them for having us and giving us this short opportunity here to quickly share with you about welfare culture. I myself used to sit on the Unity National Council when I was a little bit younger with the Salt River Young River People's Youth Council. So it's my honor to be able to give back to all of you and to be able to share some of the things that I've learned over the years since I've been a young person with the Youth Council. You may remember us a couple of years ago. We presented at the national conference in Denver, and that was a good one. We were very grateful to be there, and we shared some information there about welfare culture. But since then, we've really developed it, and we've really have created a wellness model that we found is a good one, and one that is based upon some of the things that we have learned from traveling around Native country, and also from our own wellness journey, as well as information that we're kind of learning while we tune into to functional medicine and what's happening right there. I'm also a board member of the Native Wellness Institute, and I have also used to attend Native Wellness functions as a teenager as well, and has been very crucial for my development. And so today I get to also sit on the board and to stand with the organization and to shadow the many different wellness trainers that work with NWI to contribute to the larger wellness movement in Native country. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here. I'm going to switch over to some slides right here and to tell you a little bit more about what well for culture is based upon. We have three teachings that we have based our initiative on, and these are just general teachings that we have learned growing up from our ancestral knowledge, the oral traditions that we have learned in our communities, Chelsea and myself, and just kind of putting things together, learning different knowledge and information from our different indigenous peoples, and just putting together and creating some of these teachings that welfare culture is based upon. So this is sort of like the core foundation, and as we know, everything is in circles for us as Native people. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here with you, and we are right here. As I said before, three core teachings, and if we look at the top, the first circle at the top there, it says indigenous ancestral teachings and life practices are inherently wellness based. So if you really think about the oral tradition, if you really think about all of our food systems, if you think about the purpose of our ceremonies, if you think about how our medicine people work, if you think about our original connection to the land, our indigenous games, you really see that our original indigenous culture is inherently about wellness. We don't really have wellness right in our languages. A lot of us don't have that. We have words and phrases for having a good life, right? Living a good life spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But really, our entire cultural practices and all of our ceremonies were about wellness. They were about essentially becoming connected to our Mother Earth, connected to our kinship, our clans, our communities, being connected to the animal beings, and being connected to the food, and celebrating food, having ceremonies during the harvest time, and preparing our food in families. And that was our social network. So everything about the way our ancestors walked and lived was about health and wellness. And so today, as we as Native people are amidst the movement to heal from historical trauma, the loss of our land, the loss of our languages, the loss of a way of life, We are looking back to restore a lot of our original ways, to bring back healing and wellness, and to reclaim our health, our spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional health. So if you go down to the bottom right, the circle right there, it says holistically well individuals create strong and well balanced families who make up healthy, functioning indigenous nations. So, what we believe is that healing and wellness starts within our own hearts, it starts within the body here. And we believe that human being is made up of a mental, an emotional, spiritual, and physical components. We all have a mind, we have emotions, we have a heart, we have a spirit that hovers around us. And healing and wellness, we believe, starts within that. And even though someone is experiencing deep trauma, someone may be experiencing this hurt and this pain, that it is important for us to know that the very matter that we are made up of is connected to something larger than us. And if we can connect to that larger energy, that source there, we can muster up some strength here to reconfigure our mind, reconfigure our emotions and our body, and to change, to make changes in our life here in order for us to create healing and wellness. And so healing and wellness starts right here within our own self. It starts here, and no one can do that for us. No one can walk us through those steps. That is something that we as individuals have to do. Just like they say, we come into this world alone, and we leave this world alone as well. And healing and wellness journey is very much that we start within ourselves here with the support of our network, with the support of our friend of our friends, with the support of our family, and it branches outward. So if you imagine yourself standing there, and you if you reach your hands out and you kind of just turn your hand in a circle, you will see that you are making a circle around you. And that is with that, if you make that circle around you like this, there's a circle all around you. You make a circumference, and that is sort of like your sacred space there, and that is where you keep people that are dear to you within that circle. So healing and wellness starts within yourself, and it branches out and it touches to all those people that are within your sacred circle. And then each and every one of them have their sacred circle. So it kind of just goes, and it's this interconnection network of spiritual connections. When I say spiritual connections, I mean the matter, the space between you and that person, that there is a connection right there. You can send energy to that space there, and then that's a really something that science has not yet been able, is not advanced enough to talk about that or describe that. So starts with yourself and branches out. The second layer is your family. The next layer beyond that is the community. So when you're creating healing and wellness in your life, and that is something that you are prioritizing, then what you're doing is you're making yourself a stronger component to that family network that you belong to. Your kinship, your hud, your imik is what we say in autumn. And and beyond that, you are making that family strong, and that family becomes a strong participant within the community to help the community to prosper and flourish in a spiritual way, in a cultural way, a social, political, and even economical. So wellness, this is how wellness is tied to our inherent sovereignty. This is how wellness is tied to progressing and strengthening our indigenous sovereignty. So healthy and well individuals make strong, healthy, well families. Strong, healthy, and well families make strong, whole, well functioning indigenous nations. So it's quite a simple concept there too. Another thing kind of connected to that too is the generations as well. And so that kind of brings us back into the I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen again, and it takes us to one of the other teachings that on the bottom left right here. And that teaching says the transference of vital indigenous knowledge through oral tradition is dependent on the quality and longevity of the collective lifespan. And what that means is, in order for our cultural knowledge, our indigenous ancestral knowledge to span beyond our current generation and to make it to our children and great grandchildren and so forth, is that those of us that are here and now, we must be in good health. We must be in good health to be able to pass on that information. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back right here to myself. We must be in good health to be able to pass on this knowledge and this information. And one day, you, as a young person, you're going to be a parent. You're probably going to be a grandparent, or maybe even a great grandparent. And eventually, time goes on, you'll be an ancestor. You'll be an ancestor that will be existing simultaneously with this world and past, present, future, all of that. And what we always say is that, what are you going to pass on for that next generation? And sometimes some people think, well, I don't got to think about that for, a number of years down the line. Well, it's something that we start molding ourselves now as individuals. We start trying to find older people in our communities or outside of our communities that we look up to, people that we appreciate the way they carry themselves, the knowledge that they carry, how they respond to situations. And we start molding ourselves to become that person. I myself, it's something that I'm working on as a citizen, member of my community. Not that long ago, I was a young person looking up to people who were doing things in the community. And when I think about it, I think, wow, that person was my age at that time. And I'm about to be 37. So here I am, and it's time for me to mold myself into being this person for my family, for my partner, for my daughter, and for my rest of my family, my community. To mold myself into that person, to do the things that was done for me when I was a young person. So this is why it's so important for our health and wellness. And if we are continuing to be addicted, if we are sick from some sort of disease that is plaguing us because of lifestyle that we live today, such as diabetes or heart disease, cardiovascular disease, or some kind of neurodegenerative disease. One of the diseases of maternity. If we are being plagued by that, then it's going to hinder our ability to not only live this beautiful and long life, to be able to enjoy this world that the great creator has made for us, but it's going to hinder our ability to be able to share and pass down the vital information that we are learning today. And what I always say is that all of the 20 somethings, the late teens, the 20 somethings, the 30 somethings, 40 somethings, we're in a very special time because we still have access to a lot of elders, 50, 60 somethings that have lived a longer life, and those going on to their 80s. We have access to those people that have lived a very long life, and they have seen the world change, and there are, learned teachings from their grandparents and their ancestors. We have access to that kind of knowledge, that information that was existing organically before the internet. But we also have access to this young generation who's growing up learning to utilize the iPads and mobile media and technology. We have access to both these generations on both ends of the spectrum. And if we are in a good spiritual, mental, physical, emotional well-being, if our mind is clear, and if we're in tune with the generational health concept, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be able to collect that knowledge and wisdom from the old generation. We're going to be able to put it into the young generation and be able to help mold and shape their world. Everything we're doing at this time is very important because we're growing the future for that young generation. And in order for us to, again, that's what I said a moment ago, in order for us to be able to do this in a good way, we must be in good spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional well-being. So it's really important. All these things right here are very, very important for us as young people, to start to prepare ourselves to develop our communities and to know what's going on in the world around us, but to know what's going on in the world of what how our ancestors operated in melding this and hybridizing our lifestyle. So restoring indigenous practices such as our food systems, our games, and absorbing the information from the creation stories, the morals, the teachings, the language, the songs, ceremonies, reclaiming that information is not about going back in time and living some old school way. It's about bringing the teachings and the values of those and restoring them here, because we know that the modern society, that dominant culture has built around us, is been impactful to our health. It's been impactful to our health. In some ways, they say that we're advancing as a human society, because of all the technological advancement and things like that. But we look at our health, and humans are sicker than ever. Humans are dying at a excuse me, humans are passing at a younger age more than ever. And so it is important that we restore the human ways. And if we look at our ancestors' original practices and value system, that's essentially what it was. It's about restoring our humanity. It's about being a human. And so that's what this is all about. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to the application or to sharing. Let's see. Let me bring it back over here to this. I'm gonna share this application one more time. We're gonna go on to the next slide here. Bear with me. Let's see. I'm gonna turn it over here to this chart here, this slide you should be seeing. So 7 circles of wellness. And as I said earlier, after traveling around native country and learning a lot more information, learning a lot more wellness information from the communities that we've worked with, talking to elders, talking to people who work in health and people who do functional medicine, and paying attention to what's kind of happening out there in the world of functional medicine and dominant society, we've created what we call the 7 circles of wellness. And with everything that I had just said, we have decided that there's 7 very important areas in our life today that we have to restore. We have to restore these certain areas, these 7 circles in our life, in order to be well spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And the real food is, excuse that notification at the top right. And real food is at the top. And none of these are in a particular order to where they're priority over the other. They are all equally important, but we like to start with real food. Real food. We always say that we don't like to use the term diet and things like that. Diet kind of has a bad connotation, right? And you kind of think that you're going to be miserable, you're going to be hungry all the time, and food shouldn't do that for you. Food should be revitalizing. It should rejuvenate you. It should make you mental clarity. It should improve mental clarity and brain cognition. It should not make you lethargic. It should make you energetic, and it should provide all these important things. This guy, all of a sudden, he wants to text me. I haven't heard from this guy in months, and now he's texting me, and notifications are popping up on the top right. So excuse those. I forgot to turn that off before I started. So go ahead and turn the share screen off. So this is our 7 circles of wellness. I'm gonna move on with that. It's real food, sleep, movement, peacefulness, sacred space, connection to land, clanship, and community. So I'm gonna go over each and every one of these very briefly and share them. There's a lot to share within this model, but I'm going to keep it very short because we don't have very much time. So I wanted to just kind of breeze by them and talk about how you can implement these in your life for your personal wellness. So I'm going to go ahead and unshare this screen here. I'm taking it back to myself right here. So real food was, as I said, was very important. Food is nourishing. Food is literally biological information for our body. How we eat impacts how clear our mind is. It impacts how well our immune system is gonna work, impacts the hormones in our body. And I believe that if you're eating real food from the land, from the Mother Earth, that real food is created by Mother Earth, and it's resonates at a higher frequency, as opposed to processed food that is going to resonate at a very low frequency because it's made with food-like substances, chemicals and ingredients and things like that, things that are not really food. They're food like substances, or they have been derived from food, taken apart, and all of that. Is Many of it is made in the lab straight up. It's artificial flavoring, artificial food coloring, that it's made in the lab out of synthetic chemicals. And so that's why we say real food, because unfortunately today the majority of food supply that everybody's eating comes in a bag or a box or a can, and it can sit on the shelf for several days and not go bad. It can sit inside of a can for several days and not go bad, and that's because of all the preservatives that are in there. So now what they're finding out is that many of these chemicals, preservatives, food additives, these things are, very detrimental to our health in a lot of ways. Excuse me. Some of you may have traveled to other countries and you've seen that some of the chemicals or the ingredients that they use all the time that are pretty ubiquitous in all the food in the United States are ingredients that are outlawed. Excuse me, that are outlawed in other countries. And that says a lot about the food supply. If other countries that are more progressive than the United States, these countries, they prioritize the health of their people, and they are cutting these things out, making it illegal, but yet they use them, pretty readily here in the States. So it's important for us to just eat whole and real food. And if you do just eat whole and real food, you're automatically abstaining, and you're avoiding these harmful substances that are creating so much disease amongst our people. And so that's another reason why it's important. Whole and real food is important. Now, on the topic of indigenous food, I realize that not everybody has access to indigenous food. I realize that a lot of Native people live in urban areas. I realize that a lot of Native people live on reservations where the land has been changed dramatically since the time of colonialism. Rivers have been dammed up, forests have been cut down, or grassland prairies have been changed to cattle pastures. And I realize the land has changed for that. And I realize that not everyone has access to go out to harvest berries or dig for roots or go ahead and fish for salmon or, hunt buffalo or elk or deer. And we, as in my community, and my partner and I, my little family, we actually live in Phoenix, right off our reservation. Even access to our reservation, that we are being impacted to that by that as well. So I realize that not everyone has that access, but I encourage everyone to find ways to restore that. And that's where politics comes in hand, and that's where it comes in handy to protect the land once again and create ordinances in your community, or also to revitalize what has been lost. The land can regrow itself if the proper procedures are taken. So we realize that it's important that not everyone has the access, but you can recreate that access. And that's something that may not happen overnight. It could be generations down the line, but we have to get the ball rolling somewhere. As young people that are going to be leading your communities, it's really important that you are starting to shift your community's trajectory in terms of food sovereignty and restoring those foods. Another thing that you can do is that you can adopt different food systems. And I realize a lot of people did not come from a gardening or agriculture culture, but it's something that you can adopt today. Many communities are adopting community gardens and family gardens, growing your own food. There's something very empowering about growing your own food, planting, putting the seed in the soil and watching it flourish, and taking care of it as time goes on, and watering it, watching that seed sprout and turn into food. And you harvest it and go in the house and the kitchen and cook it. And it's empowering because you know exactly what went into that food. There was no pesticides or herbicides sprayed on it. Hopefully the seed wasn't genetically modified, and you have given yourself the ability to feed yourself. And that's what true tribal sovereignty is the ability to feed oneself. And so it's something empowering about that. So we encourage everyone to try to take that up, and get together with your friends. If you don't have a plot of land there, maybe you live in the city, or maybe you live in a tribal housing project where there's not very much land, try to get together and find something. Put together a community garden, grow your food together. And the more people that are out there working and doing it, the more food you're going to be able to harvest. So we encourage that. So that's why food is, it's political, it's cultural, it's social, it's spiritual, all of that. It's a very important thing for us to try to restore our connection to food. And that's essentially what this is about. It's about having a healthy connection to real food. And there's also different practices that you can adopt. Mindful eating practices. If you go to our social media account, well for culture is our social media handle across the board on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We share a little bit more about mindful eating. So if you want to learn more about that, go on, follow us on Instagram, well for culture, and go and search through our timeline You'll be able to see some information about mindful eating. And basically, what that is, it's about being very present during your time when you're eating your food, and it's not having your attention elsewhere. It's about showing gratitude to our food and things like that. These kinds of things will really change our mind, that really change how we view the world. So one of the other important circles of wellness is sleep. And I realize that a lot of you may be college students, and or maybe you're in high school. Maybe you wake up or you stay up all night. Maybe you're like on social media. Maybe you're on YouTube or playing video games or something like that during the time of when you should be sleeping. So, of course, I'm not here trying to tell you how to live your life, but what I'm trying to tell you is that it's important that you value sleep once again. So if you think about the original indigenous cultural practices that our ancestors had done, is that they woke up with the sun. So when the sun creeped up and the light rays shot across the land, that was a very sacred time, right? And many of us, that was when the people would get up and they would do their giving of thanks for the day, and they would set their intention for the day. And when the sun had gone down, that was when they were starting to go ahead and calm, and they were about to put their ending their day. And so that was a very, very important time. And so when you sleep, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to go into the dream state. And dreams are very important. I know some of you are probably dreamers. It's important that we always analyze our dreams and try to find out, what does that dream mean? What is it telling me? What did I learn from that dream? But if we're not getting quality sleep, we're reading ourselves of that opportunity to be able to sleep and have those dreams. And a lot of times our ancestors will give us information in our dreams, songs, teachings, stories. Sometimes some of your relatives that have moved on into the spirit world will come back and they'll talk to you through your dreams and such. So if we're not giving ourselves a good time to sleep, we're not going to have those experiences. But some other important things happen when you sleep too. When you sleep, hormone regulations happen. And hormone regulation is very important for your body, for your endocrine system to function properly, for you to be in a good mood, for you to have energy. Also, what happens is you have memory consolidation. So, if you're in school, you're in college, or you are out on the field, you're playing sports, or you're doing some kind of other recreational physical activity, and you're learning new movements, you're learning indigenous language, or any kind of language, it's really important that you sleep. Because when you sleep, what happens is those new nerve cells that you create during neurogenesis, those new nerve cells mature. They mature while you sleep. And so this is a really important thing for you to do that. So if you are having a hard time on remembering and absorbing the information, retaining information that you were learning during school, it's probably because maybe your sleep pattern is a little off. So if you have some kind of wearable technology like a Fitbit or an iWatch or something like that, Apple Watch, that can track your sleep. And if you track your sleep, you can kind of see how much time you're spending REM, and you can see how much quality sleep you're getting, deep sleep, light sleep. It'll tell you all the phases. And a lot of that, everything I'm talking about with hormone regulation, memory consolidation, fat burning, muscle building, all of that happens during the stages of REM and deep sleep. So you must try to get adequate sleep to be able to reap those benefits of sleep. So it's really important for your overall wellness and in the spiritual state too. Remember, as I said earlier at the beginning of this section, is that the ancestors had waken up with the sun, they went to sleep with the sun. And so that is how we as humans, since time immemorial, we functioned that way. Because think back to a time before electricity was around, all they had was fire. So when the sun went down, there was no, hey, let's flick the lights on and let's hang out here and play video games, or, get on and do a webinar. It was time for them to calm down, and it was this time for them to sleep because they were so tired from being active and working all day. So if you've ever been camping, you notice that if you haven't been exposed to the blue light from technology, as soon as the sun goes down, you're already sleepy. So it's really important to also to abstain from utilizing too much electronic devices at night. And what's going to happen is you're going to allow the hormone melatonin to start being secreted throughout your body to start getting you prepared for sleep. But if we're always exposing our eyes to the blue light from an electronic device, such as an iPad, iPhone, or a TV or something like that, what that does is that inhibits the melatonin secretion. So it's really important that you start even toning those down And some people call it an electronic sundown. So we do that in the home here. When the sun gets set, we started to dim the lights and things like that. I wear blue blocking glasses. I think it helps. So sleep's a very, very important one with that. And movement, physical movement is something that our ancestors have always done, whether it be in games and playing games or preparing for war. Also, it was just they were just working all day long. They were preparing food. They were building structures. They were walking or running to another village or canoeing to another village to share some kind of information, right? They were messengers. And so our ancestors lived a very active lifestyle. And that is how we evolved as human beings. In general, we've evolved because we were active, and how we were moving and the foods we were eating was responsible for the expansion of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the executive functioning section of the brain. So unfortunately today that we are kind of like in this sedentary lifestyle where we have to sit a lot, or we have to drive a lot, and that is something that our as human beings collectively we're not used to that. And so it's important that we try to move, and that we have to consciously move, because we have to continue to keep our bodies functioning and well, and so we can move into the future in a good way. So there's a lot of different modalities of movement, everything from a swift walk to hiking to running, yoga, weight training, playing basketball, lacrosse, volleyball, all these kind of things, dance of any sort. These are all important for moving your body. What happens when you move is that you have the feel good neurotransmitters that are secreted throughout your body. They help relieve stress. They help to you know make you feel much better. When you sweat, you release these endorphins. And you're also moving energy, spiritual energy, that again science has not been advanced enough to measure this, but there's energy that gets caught up in, the closest thing I can think of it is inflammation. So we have to move that around. Many times, if we are hurt because of trauma, or we are unwell, or we have anxiety, that energy is pent up. We must release it through many different ways of doing that. But movement is a good way to release that. So that's a really important thing. Movement is good for us. And I know, realize a lot of you move, and you should continue to move into old age. Movement isn't just for young people, it's very, very important for that. So, just a reminder again how the rest of the seven circles, we went over three of them. We went over real food, sleep, movement. And the next one is peacefulness. Then we have another one, sacred living space, and a connection to land and clanship and community. So I'm gonna breeze over these because we're almost running out of time right here. So hopefully you're still tuning in, and hopefully that you're still engaged. And the next circle is peacefulness. Peacefulness is important because it helps us to maintain our stress. And we know that stress is one of the biggest factors in disease epidemic that we're experiencing today. So it's important that you find some modality to help relieve your stress. I'm still finding this myself. I get irritable, I get stressed out at times in my life, and I have to remember to get back to meditation, and have to get back to changing a mindset. So these are important. So find some modality of peacefulness, such as mindfulness, mindful breathing, meditation, be in ceremony, do giving of thanks every day. Have your medicines nearby. The next one is sacred living space. And sacred living space is really important because in this, what is sacred living spaces is your home, it's your office or your dorm or your work. It's really important that we have this space in a good way right here. That means keeping it free of alcohol, keeping it free of substances, because what happens is that those chemicals, those substances, they cause the negative energy to come here. They attract negative energy. Alcohol attracts negative energy. It resonates at a very low level. So if you have real food in the home, if you have your medicine, your sages, your sweet grass, or your mountain smoke, or whatever it is, you're raising the spiritual energy and consciousness of your room or your office or your workspace. When you do ceremony, when you pray in the space, and when you sing, you're raising the consciousness of the energy in the room. You're making it feel better. And again, this is stuff that science has not been advanced enough to be able to prove and show. But we know this ancestral knowledge and information. Our ancestors have been doing this for a long, long time. The next one right here is a connection to the land. And that's an important one because, again, today with this lifestyle that we're indoors a lot. But we evolved outside on the land as human beings. We evolved walking on the land, crossing the rivers, swimming in the canoeing in the oceans, running across the prairies, fishing from the Great Lakes, harvesting from the land. That's how we evolved. We must continue that connection and get out of doors and spend time out of doors, breathe outside, harvest food from the land, take your feet on the land and barefoot or in the oceans or the rivers or the lakes. These things will draw us closer to my Mother Earth and promote healing and wellness in our entire life. And the last one right here is clanship and community. And community is a really important thing. All of us want to belong to something important, right? We all want to belong to a clique or a family or a team or something or a large network like unity. This is important thing for us to have in our life. That's how our ancestors had evolved to where they are, because we were in clans, we were in families or bands or villages, and that's what made up the nations. And so it's important today that we maintain your connection and your spot in your family. When you're in your family and you understand your purpose in that, it gives you more purpose in life. It's important for us to understand, what is your role in your family, what's your role in your community. You're a part of something much larger. Some of you may think that you feel lonely, or you think you're the only one going through what you're going through. Really, you're a part of this large network. Even your ancestors are all behind you. You're the ones that lived before you. There's like a row of them all behind you. So you're a part of something large in a spiritual network. It's important to realize that and be mindful of that. And that gives you space in this world. It gives you purpose in this world. So that is a little bit about our 7 circles of wellness. It's a wellness model that you can apply in your life. You can use it in your families. You can use it in your workspace, your schools, wherever. It's about retaining our healing and wellness, and insert your cultural practices and values wherever you come from, because that's what it is. This is a template that you can incorporate into that, and think back to the teachings of your ancestors. What is your food? How was their sleep patterns? How did they move? How did they keep stress down? How are they connected to the land? How did they treat their sacred space? And who were they connected to? 7 circles of that. So I want to thank you all for joining us and sitting through that and bearing with me as I shared a little bit about wealth culture. You can go ahead and ask questions in the chat area. I'll be on to answer some of your questions. Follow us on social media, Well for Culture, across the board, here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and also check out our website, wellforculture.com. We share some tutorials. We share the food ideas and things like that. You can always contact us, any of our social media. Check us out and ask us questions and keep in touch with us. So thank you for tuning in. The Hug.